If you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member today. Members get early access to videos, access to all the stream VODs, and exclusive access to emotes as well. So if you'd like to support the channel, become a member today. So we recently covered the way that the Republicans are clearly going downhill. Recently, the Iowa caucus took place, and, well, let's just say it was a pretty clear victory for Donald J. Trump. And I talked about this briefly the other day, but this has made it more and more abundantly clear that the Republicans have chosen, out of all the options they have, they've chosen schizophrenia. This is the option that they've opted for. Now you can see here that Donald Trump won the Iowa caucus by 51%. Ron Desantis came in second at only 21%. So Trump very clearly has an advantage here. Trump more than likely is going to be the Republican nominee, and everyone's going to want to see Trump versus Biden all over again. Apparently that's what people want to see. I don't know why, but for some reason that's what people want to see. Vivek Ramaswamy has now suspended his 2024 campaign. He also endorsed Donald J. Trump. But before Vivek Ramaswamy here suspended his bid for the Oval Office, a couple weeks ago, he was at some kind of a live event in which he decided to let an LGBT person take the microphone and debate him slightly on the issues regarding the LGBT community. And let's see, maybe, just maybe, he'll lose the debate so bad that that's why he wanted to suspend his presidential campaign. We'll find out.
I'm going to sit across the table from Xi Jinping. Give you the hard questions.
LGBTQ.
What's up?
You heard me?
I actually didn't.
LGBTQ.
Yep, what about it?
Yeah, you just said there was nothing about transgender.
Yeah, so how about this?
So someone's screaming from the audience, you just said there was nothing about transgender? What is that? What? What does that even mean?
I give you the mic, and we hear what you have to say. And then I'm going to answer you, and you'll hear what I have to say, what everybody else here has to say. Does that sound like a good deal?
I don't need the mic. Yes. I can speak louder.
Well, stand up. Tell me your name and state your question.
My name's Alexa.
I don't need a microphone. I don't need the sound system. I can just scream really loudly. Watch out, everybody.
Case, and I grew up here.
Okay.
In this town. LGBTQ is a serious situation in this world today. There are children that get bullied because they are gay, they're lesbian, they're transgender. I don't need that.
Okay. You're welcome to have it if you want.
I don't need it.
You get to ask your question.
Why is she avoiding the microphone so badly? Like the microphone will allow you to get your message out to more people.
But after that, you're going to hear me give my answer. So I'll let you finish.
What is your stance on LGBTQ?
Good. Thank you for your question. I'm going to answer it. I'm going to go into a level of depth that I don't usually go into on a campaign trail, but I'm going to do it because you asked the question. You deserve an answer. LGBTQIA, there's so many letters, they've just added a plus at the end. That's where we are now. What's going on? So the same movement, because if we're going to call that one thing, let's play it fair. The same movement that said that the sex of the person you're attracted to is hardwired on the day you're born. That was the premise of the gay rights movement, for it to count as a civil right. That movement is now saying that your own biological sex is totally fluid over the course of your life.
Hypocrite.
What? That group isn't saying that at all. It's that gender is fluid and gender can change and adjust and morph. Sex is pretty concrete. I mean, we have a pretty decent understanding of biology, someone's biological sex, sexual characteristics, but even that is actually more fluid than we once thought. At one point, we thought it was a rigid binary. We thought that it was a rigid male or female, and that was it. But we now know there's a lot more middle ground there, and it is more fluid than we once thought. But really very few people within the LGBT community are saying that sex is fluid, that biology is fluid, that if somebody identifies as a woman, they then suddenly just have female biological parts. No, this doesn't make any sense. Very few people are actually saying this. More than likely, this is just a straw man that Ramaswamy here is doing, which is something that a lot of Republicans do. And I talk about this a lot, how they will make up a fake argument and then debunk the fake argument because it makes them look really smart, and it's a lot easier than needing to actually contend with the real argument. The actual argument is that no, sex is more or less a fact. It's a biological fact, but gender is something that is fluid. Gender is something that can be identified with. Gender is something that could hypothetically change. That's the conversation. But it's a lot easier to just be like, well, you said your sexuality is hardwired. Now you're saying sex is fluid. So hypocrites, huh? It's a lot easier to do that rather than contend with the real argument, which is that sex and gender are two separate concepts, and where sex might be much more of a constant, gender is not.
You can't believe both those things. Well, I think I'm going to get to a deeper say. That's where I was about a year or two ago, but I think there's something deeper going on, and I'll tell you what it is. So the same movement, and by the way, let's think about the women's rights movement in this country, which said there's many ways to be a woman. You can have long hair, short hair.
Also, by the way, so far his first argument was simply that this movement is being hypocritical. Do you realize that just if a movement is being hypocritical doesn't mean that what that movement's advocating for is actually necessarily incorrect? Just if it's hypocritical doesn't actually mean that it's incorrect. For example, it could be hypocritical of a movement to say that women deserve equal rights, but women are also really weak compared to men. That might be sort of hypocritical if you're saying this group is equal but also weaker. How does that make any sense? However, the general premise that women deserve equality compared to men within our society and according to the law, that rings true regardless of whether or not there are hypocrisies in that movement. So let that be clear that his first argument against the LGBT community was just that they're being hypocritical. They're not actually. He's just stupid. But regardless, he thinks they're being hypocritical, and for him, that's enough to be his first argument against this thing.
You can have long hair, short hair. You can wear a skirt. You can wear jeans. Now says that, oh, if actually you want to behave a certain way, that means you're a man. So I think that the hypocrisy is...
No, nobody's saying it's that. What? Literally nobody says that your behavior is what makes you a man or a woman. No feminist, no non-feminist. Very few people are up here arguing that your behavior is what determines your gender identity. It's actually the other way around. It's that if you have a certain gender identity, odds are that's going to reflect on your behavior. Nobody's saying that acting like a man means you are a man. But if somebody identifies as a man and then they carry out stereotypical masculine behaviors in an attempt to be recognized as their gender identity in society, that's completely understandable. That's what a lot of trans people do, and that also makes a lot of sense to me. Nobody says it's the behavior that dictates your gender identity. It's literally the opposite.
So I think that the hypocrisies go all the way down, and I'll tell you what's going on. You can't believe both of those things at the same time if you're operating according to principles of sheer logic.
I like how they just say stuff. They're like, well, if you're operating on logic, where's the logic again? You just strawmanned the out of the opposing side, made fake arguments, and then demolished the fake arguments to try and prop your worldview up. And you're saying that you're operating on sheer logic? No, you're not. You're operating on sheer feeling and emotion. You're refusing to engage with logical principles because you're too scared.
But you can if you're adopting a faith, a cult-like belief system. So
these guys, man, the religious people, the religious conservatives, conservatism, which literally honors and rewards loyalty and blindly submitting and following authority figures, and Christianity, which literally rewards blindly following an authority figure, aka God. These people in this community are desperate to paint everyone else as the cult-like followers of some crazy belief system. It's projection.
This is controversial for me to say, but I'm going to tell you what I think. I believe that transgenderism specifically is a mental health disorder. I believe it's a mental health condition.
Wow, these are some wonderful people in this crowd. Being trans, simply having a gender identity that differs from your sexual characteristics is not a mental disorder. It's only a mental disorder if this causes severe distress to the point of hindering your day-to-day life. Having gender dysphoria and distress related to a differentiation between the way that you're feeling and the way that you identify versus the way you're being treated is different from having distress due to that actual condition. Being transgender doesn't cause stress. It's the treatment you receive for being trans that causes stress. So these Republicans are once again doing that self-fulfilling prophecy thing where because they treat trans people like dog shit and make trans people feel bad and not want to be trans, they're then able to weaponize that. It's really disgusting.
Well, no. We're going to finish this. This is...
I like the angry Republicans. I'm 3 Bud Light. Oh, wait, no, they wouldn't drink Bud Light anymore. I'm 3 Coors Lights in, and nobody gives a f what these trans people think.
It's good. We have to have open conversation in this country. But I don't think the compassionate thing to do.
Health disorder.
Well,
it's how they feel.
Well, let me. If I'm
That's a bad argument too, because people can feel a certain way due to a mental health disorder. So just if someone that's like being like, it's not a mental health disorder when I have depression, okay? It's just that I feel like I want to kill myself. It's like, yeah, but that feeling could still be an indication of the mental health disorder. So for this girl, I understand she's upset, and I don't blame her at all. She's not really being heard or understood by this by this guy or his audience, but still, that's a bad argument.
Give you a chance to respond if you'd like, but we can't have an open debate in this country if we're not able to state our views.
That's how they feel.
That's how they feel. And you know what? I'll tell you a story, and you deserve to hear this. I met 2 young women in this race about 6 months ago.
Oh no.
Their names were Chloe and Katie, 2 young women.
Oh, why do we always get... Let me tell you a little story. Once there were people that had some kind of a gender operation that turned bad. It is now because of this that I think I should deprive everybody of access to what has been medically proven to be the most effective medical method.
They're in their 20s now. Both of them had their breasts cut off. One of them had her uterus removed.
Okay.
They're in their 20s. They regret that decision. One of them wants to have kids. She'll never have kids.
Yeah, do we want to talk about regret for all kinds of operations? Do you know that the regret rate for knee surgery, for example, is higher than the regret rate for gender reassignment surgery? You can bring up these stories of people that regret these procedures, and there are definitely instances in which people were given these procedures too soon, and there was medical malpractice at play. That is absolutely something that happens that we shouldn't be afraid to just acknowledge that and talk about that. However, to bring up an anecdotal story about one person you met that regretted that, I could bring up anecdotes of people that regret all kinds of surgery and all kinds of operations. But nobody would say that those operations entirely are bad as a collective. It's only when it comes to the LGBT issue.
The other one will never breastfeed her children. They'll never be the same because they had that done to them when they were teenagers. So no, when a young person...
So do you have, then how would you feel about somebody needing to wait for like 2 years with persistent gender dysphoria before getting an operation? What about then? Are you still against it? It's good when these people bring this stuff up to ask them questions like that. What if it was like a 2-year waiting period? Would you then be okay with it? And I guarantee you the majority of them will say no. Because they're only using this, oh, it happened too soon and she was a teenager, now she can't breastfeed. They're only using that as a scapegoat. What it really comes down to is they don't like trans people. They don't like what the medical literature says is the most effective method for treating gender dysphoria, and they are against that no matter what. They use these stories because it props up what they are ultimately against. But if you ask them, okay, well, what if somebody wanted to get gender reassignment surgery and they had to wait for 3 years before getting any kind of operation? The majority of these people would still say that they would be against it because it's not actually about the operation or that there are teens having this operation done and now they can't breastfeed, yada, yada, yada. They don't give a shit about this. They just hate trans people. That's really what it comes down to.
Shows up and says, my gender doesn't match my biological sex. They're asking for help. They happened to them when one girl was 13 when it happened to her. She's in her 20s now and regrets it. This is what's wrong in this country. We will look back at this and say this was barbaric that we allowed this to happen in this country. That is not compassion.
That is cruelty. And so I don't think the right thing to do is, I'm not going to villainize.
It's also cruelty to say that, hey, here's a group of individuals that are suffering and I'm just going to write them off as mentally ill and delusional rather than actually taking this kind of thing seriously.
Those people. You don't villainize people who are going through suffering, but you have to be willing to say, when a kid shows up and says, my gender doesn't match my biological sex, you have to be able to say, what else is going wrong at home? What else might be going wrong at school? Get to the bottom of what's going on. Help that person with compassion, with dignity. So my view is this: if you're an adult,
with compassion and dignity, while simultaneously rejecting what the medical field says is the most effective method of alleviating that child's suffering. He's saying that you need to address this kid with gender dysphoria with compassion, okay? But in your compassionate addressing of this child, remember to completely ignore and avidly fight against what the medical field says is the most effective method for alleviating this suffering.
so my view is this: if you're an adult, you're free to live your life however you want as long as you're not hurting somebody else. If you're a man, you can dress how you want. If you're a woman, you can dress how you want. Identify how you want. We're a free country and I'm not going to stop you. But kids are not the same as adults. And
So then they do this thing too where they deviate to the conversation of just kids. Well, kids this, kids that. Okay, let's take kids out of the equation then. What about trans people? He just said they're free to make their own decisions. I know what the next question would be. Okay, so they have freely and in their adult mind decided to pursue gender reassignment surgery. Would you validate their gender? He would still say no.
we have to protect our children. And I'm going to go further than that. We can't change the way that women and men compete in sports. We can't do that. We can allow you to live your life the way you want.
We can't change how men and women compete in sports? Who created sports to begin with? Sports, the rules of football were found in an archaic rock next to the Ten Commandments, given to us from God himself. We can't change this. We are merely mortals.
But we can't change the way that we operate in our own life. And I'm going to finish this thought and then you get to respond, because I think this is good. We don't do this enough.
This is the most selfish and delusional / narcissistic way to view things. We can't change how we already do things for other people, blah, blah, blah. Why? Were you not just running for president? Don't you believe to an extent that people can change how they operate in their own life? Don't you think that certain policies and influence can affect that? Otherwise, why else would you have been running for president? We can change how we act. We can change how the world works. That's what humans have been doing since the beginning of time, and it's what we're going to continue to do because we know how to take control of our own life and make changes and adapt to the world around us. Wow, you're stupid. Okay, I didn't realize we were actually dealing with like presidential campaign short bus edition.
I think what we've had in our country before is a tyranny of the majority, and that's what we worry about.
A tyranny of the... No, we didn't. But okay, I don't even know what to say to this.
And that's what we worry about. But right now, we don't have a tyranny of the majority. What we have in this country right now is a tyranny of the minority. That's what we have right now, a tyranny of the fringe minority that tells you to shut up, sit down, and do as you're told. No, we have...
You're having an open debate about this right now. People can have open debates about this all they want. The problem is that open debate is oftentimes not met with any kind of understanding. For example, you bad faith scumbag, acting as if being trans is a mental illness. We can have an open debate all day, all night, okay? But if you're not going to budge on that, if you're not willing to contend with reality when it comes to whether or not this thing is classified as a mental illness, I don't know how far an open debate or discussion is really going to get.
Have to stand for what is true. And so I promise to you, you will have a chance to respond. I'm going to keep my promise. You tell me. This is good. We don't do this enough in our country anymore. Open conversation. Tell me.
I was a child when I knew that I was gay.
What?
Not the fact that I wanted to change my gender, but living here in this town, I knew that I wanted, that I was a lesbian, that I was attracted to females.
Being lesbian and being trans is different.
And when did you grow? When was that? In the 90s?
Oh, no. Let's see. came out when I was 19, so I was born in 1983.
So I think where we are now, we're in the similar generation. I think things today aren't what they were. I grew up in Ohio in the 1990s, and we're in a different place today. And I think this could be a very productive conversation. I don't get to do this in the campaign trail often, where we all are in our own echo chambers and silos. So it's good for us to talk to each other. I like that. Something funny's happened, I think, in the last few years in this country with the civil rights movement. It's right when we get to closest to the promised land of true racial equality that we then start obsessing over systemic racism. It's right when we get to the point in our national history.
Maybe it's because we're getting to the point of finding true racial equality that we are now to the period of talking about systemic racism. How are these people so stupid? Why do I feel like I'm sitting here watching a bunch of idiots attempting to navigate politics?
It's right when we get to the point in our national history where whoever you are, you can marry who you want, where you want.
Yeah, because as we progress and we realize, hey, more and more people can have freedom, why are we restricting this kind of behavior? Yeah, now it's like, hey, you gave these people freedom and these people freedom and these people freedom. What about the gay people? Don't they deserve rights also? Yeah. It's no surprise to me that this happens right as we're making progress. Because making progress, or in order to make progress, it comes with recognizing the flaws and the problems that still exist in the country so that you can overcome them.
Whatever gender they are, that we start then obsessing over the sexual identity revolution. You know what's actually funny right now is many people who are lesbian or gay are being taught to say that, hey, if you're a woman attracted to a woman, you're not a woman, you're a man. So that's the trans.
Source, bruh? One source, please.
I hate the term persons of color. You want to know why? You take 100 different cultures, combine them into one thing that's designed to be opposed to this other thing we call white. And so the way I view this is, you are free to live your life the way you wish to, as long as you don't hurt anybody else in return.
And sometimes if someone wants to live their life freely, and within that free living of their life, they also say, hey, if you could just refer to me as these pronouns, that'd be really beneficial. Thank you. And then you say, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm a conservative and I have strong Christian morals. You're actually hurting those people. You realize that people that are gender nonconforming, trans, non-binary, whatever, when you just invalidate their gender identity, you disregard their pronouns, you're doing a harm. You're doing a psychological harm to those people. So you're fine doing harm to other people if it conflicts with what you want.
But that doesn't mean we change the way men and women compete in sports. That doesn't mean we change the way men and women. I don't think that just because you identify as a man doesn't mean that you're entitled to a trophy. Do you agree with me on that?
That's different.
You agree with me on that?
I get you. I get you.
You agree with me on that? All right.
That's different.
Because men shouldn't be swimming with women in women's sports competitions. Thank you.
Oh, no.
I appreciate that.
No.
That's what I'm talking about, right?
Come on, Karen, you can do better.
And so that's what I'm saying is it's not all the same thing, right? And so we got to respect people and treat them with dignity. Every one of us is different.
By calling a large group of people mentally ill for having a different gender identity, very respectful.
But all I'll say is kids aren't the same as adults, and if we can agree on that, then I think we at least made some progress tonight and we'll have a step forward. So thank you.
He's doing a Mott and Bailey here, where his Mott is kids aren't the same as adults, tee-hee, and his Bailey is because kids aren't the same as adults, that's why children, even children suffering with very real and legitimate gender dysphoria, should never have any kind of medical intervention done. Even if that medical intervention could potentially save their life or alleviate their suffering, no, that shouldn't be done because kids are different from adults. He's doing a Mott and Bailey. It's easy to agree that kids and adults are different. Yeah, no shit, dude. Turns out that grass and trees are also different, okay? But what you're doing with the fact that kids and adults are different is where we actually have the disagreement. But by backing up into this easy talking point, hey, I'm just saying kids and adults are different, right? LOL. It's way easier to agree with that. And it saves him from being put in more conflict and needing to defend himself more.
When you're the only person in a room, and I'll come to you next, when you're the only person in a room who believes what you do, I will always tell you, stand up and say it. That's how we're going to get this country back, is actually all of us.
The one guy in the room that still thinks black people should be slaves. Yes. Finally, it's my time. Finally, I've been called on to give my opinion on why black people should still be a currency. Yes! So that was Vivek Ramaswamy confronting an LGBT individual using very swarmy, bad faith tactics, unsurprisingly. Now, this happened 3 weeks ago. We now know that only a couple days ago, after the Iowa caucus, Vivek Ramaswamy, I'm just going to call him Ramaswamy for now because it's easier, okay? Vivek Ramaswamy dropped out of the race and is now endorsing Donald Trump. What's going on with Donald J. Trump, you know? Well, he recently gave a speech. And by recently, I mean, well, this video was posted an hour ago. Trump again pledges to enact massive deportation effort at New Hampshire rally. So let's go ahead and catch up with Mr. Donald J. Trump.
Under Biden, the USA has been turned into a dumping ground of the world. So we have a couple of, does anyone want to hear the snake? Do you know the snake? Should I do it? So this is I just happen to have a copy with me. This is was a song actually, a long time ago. And I sort of changed it around a little bit. It just reminded me of our border and what's happening. And I do this because, and people think it's cute, but most people that are smart say, boy, that's a problem, because this is what's happening to our country at the border. On her way to work one morning, down the path.
Boy. So we're going to hear Trump read something about what's happening at our border. Okay, Donald Trump. Take it away, buddy boy.
Path along the lake. Way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried, I'll take you in and I'll take care of you. Have you heard this before? And how much do you love it, right? Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, cried the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home.
Why are we getting Donald Trump Dr. Seuss edition? Like, can we just skip to the part that you start shitting on immigrants, please, so I can start debunking you?
Home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had survived. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, cried the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed
Trump rap god arc?
and held him tight. But instead of saying, thank you, ma'am, the snake gave her a vicious bite.
I didn't see that coming at all.
Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me. But why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin.
Hey, that sounds like how Trump talks to women on a daily basis.
You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Thank you.
So we're supposed to view immigrants as the snake? This is a really big problem when you're trying to compare immigrants to snakes. You're trying to compare an immigrant to an evil, conniving being that took advantage of someone else before viciously attacking them. It's really a shame, isn't it, that illegal immigrants, not just immigrants, illegal immigrants, commit less crime than native-born Americans. Oof, that sucks, doesn't it? Doesn't it suck that illegal immigrants pay a ton into taxes? Doesn't it suck that immigrants actually start businesses at higher rates than native-born Americans? Oof. God, that sucks. When you're trying to paint a group of people as the snake, as the vicious, conniving, evil being that's going to surely take advantage of you, when that group of people actually contributes immensely to our economy, commits less crime, starts more businesses? Do you know that immigrants, illegal and legal immigrants, hold jobs at higher rates than native-born Americans? All of these things are true. But that doesn't matter to Trump, because to Trump and to his audience, they need some kind of a common enemy, something to focus on. And it's really easy to focus on the outsiders, the people coming into your country from another country, the evil foreigners. It's a very common scapegoat.
When we're taking in people from prisons all over the world, when we're taking in people from mental institutions and insane asylums from all over the world, if you take...
We are? I mean, Trump, you have a large amount of people that are voting for you, so I know that like a large percentage of Americans are voting for people that are fresh out of an insane asylum, but as far as us taking people in from insane asylums, huh? Where?
Take a look at the population of mental institutions all over the world. You see it's way down. Some are empty because it's all being dropped and deposited and dumped right into the United States. How stupid are we? And that is a very...
What? Is he saying if you look at the mental health institutions around the world, you'll see that the numbers are down? And he's saying it's because all of those crazy people are being brought here to America, just dropped off at our border? What? The voices in my head told me to come to America. What is he saying right now?
Very accurate portrayal of what's happening, but what's going to happen. There's 100% chance of terror in our country. This isn't like, oh, gee, you know, I fought like hell with the terror ban. I got it approved ultimately by the Supreme Court of the United States. I didn't want to have people come in from countries that like blowing each other up. And we had no terror for 4 years. We didn't have one incident. We didn't have any. And I could never talk about it. Even during the election, I couldn't talk about it because I didn't want to do that and the following day something happens. I didn't want to even give people ideas. We had no terror. None. We defeated ISIS. We had no terror.
I remember the good old days when Trump was president, when nothing bad ever happened. I don't remember any school shootings under Donald Trump's presidency. Nope. None whatsoever.
Nobody's ever done the job that we've done. But, you know, that is just emblematic. We are taking in people from jails and prisons. You know, there is a slight difference in those words. From mental institutions and insane asylums. We're taking in terrorists at numbers that are massive. They're massive.
Didn't he say BLM was a terror organization? Yeah, that's right. So under Donald Trump, there was no terror except for BLM under Trump, which was a terror organization, according to Trump. Yes, thank you. It's not supposed to make sense. If you think too hard about it, you'll get a headache, so I recommend you don't do that.
Taking in massive numbers of people. We have no idea where they come from. We don't vet them. We have no security. They just pour into our country. It's 100% certain that terrible things are going to happen, and we have no chance.
It's 100% certain that terrible things are going to happen if you are elected for President Trump.
Dwight Eisenhower, he was a big deportation president because they were having a problem. By the way, nothing like this. No country's ever had a problem like this. There's never been a problem like this. Nothing like this. But he deported, you know, hundreds of thousands of people that came into our country illegally. And so we're going to, unfortunately, have to have a mass deportation because no country can withstand this.
I like how a ton of people are cheering that when Trump says that, but yet a ton of people voting for Trump are old motherfuckers that are all relying on Social Security, which it turns out that illegal immigrants pay a massive amount every year into Social Security. In fact, if we were to deport all illegal immigrants tomorrow, we would lose millions upon millions of dollars in Social Security. Talk about biting the hand that feeds you, huh?
No country can withstand this. So upon taking office, I will terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration and begin the largest deportation.
Yep, the Democrats' open border policy. I remember that.
Operation in American history. We have no choice. I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to do that, but we have no choice. It's not sustainable. It's not affordable. We owe $36 trillion. It's not affordable, but it's not sustainable as a country. You see where they're coming in, and in New York, they're actually taking over the schools. They're literally taking the seats of kids that have been growing up in a school, and those kids are being sent to secondary schools in bad locations, and people are sitting in the classrooms that don't speak a word of English, and nobody knows what to do about it. It's not sustainable, and we're going to take people back to where they came from, and we have no choice but to do it. And it's going to be, it's so sad, because no matter whether you're a super genius or not a super genius, when you take millions and millions of people, and I believe the number is going to end up being 16 million people by the time this ends. The real number, they give you, 3 million, 4 million, it's a lot of people. But I believe the real number is going to be 15, 16. That's larger than New York State.
And why does he believe this? Probably because it would strengthen his agenda, and that's about all. That's the only reason why I could think that.
And they just flow in. There's nobody to even check. There's nobody to do anything. The drug lords, the drug lords, thank you, darling. The drug lords and the people that do this, the human traffickers, are, I believe they're among the richest people in the world. We used to fight them, and they were tough, by the way, but you used to.
If they're the richest people in the world, then they're probably hanging out with you, Trump. I mean,
To fight them. And Brandon Judd of the Border Patrol, he's fantastic, and the whole group is, these people are fantastic. They want to fight. They want to stop it. They're told you can't do anything. Just let everybody pour in. They are fantastic.
I'm pretty sure, actually, no. I know you can read stats under the Biden administration about Border Patrol stopping people and apprehending people. I know that you can read about this. Nobody is just letting other people pour into the country. This is not happening.
People, they're patriots. ICE, the way we treat these incredible patriots is so sad. But ICE, they would come in for me and they'd fight MS-13, one of the most vicious gangs, probably the most vicious gang in the world, and they'd go in and they'd just start swinging. I mean, it was incredible. Nobody's going to do it. I have friends in the front row. Those guys, they're tough guys, but they're not tough for that. They don't want any part of it. These guys are tough, and they love our country. That's a rough job, and we don't give them the backing that we should. We're going to give our police backing. We're going to give them backing like they'd ever had, because we have to straighten out this.
He's just rambling. He's like, they're brave patriots, Border Patrol, the police. But did I mention veterans? Immigrants are mad. It's like, I thought that Biden was the one who supposedly had dementia, but Trump is just rambling.
To stop the deadly drugs that are poisoning our people, I will deploy the U.S. Navy to impose a full fentanyl blockade on the waters of our region.
Oh, so you're going to crack down on the war on drugs. Well, nothing bad has ever happened as a result of that. Well, there you guys have it. The Republicans are clearly breaking down. And listen, I know that Biden might not be your favorite candidate, okay? But odds are it's going to be Biden versus Trump. And when it comes down to it, I would take sleepy over crazy any day. So get the to the polls and vote for Biden. Vote for a Democrat. Vote for, don't even vote for. Just vote against Trump if that's what it takes. Because Donald Trump is insane. The Republicans are insane. They're breaking down more and more every day. And we do not need people that are in the middle of a mental breakdown running our country. Keeping with the flow of the Republicans just not doing so great. Donald Trump's top competitor, Ron Desantis, has officially dropped out of the presidential race. DeSantis suspended his 2024 GOP presidential campaign 6 days after a distant second-place finish in Iowa and 2 days ahead of the New Hampshire primary. And another one's gone, and another one's gone, and another one bites the dust. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be Donald Trump all the way. The Trump train is in the full swing of things. It has left the station. But there you guys have it. The Republicans just, they're not doing so great.